All right, beautiful people. We are back again. Search for Huru, Dinah Samir. I have the brother Awini Baba with us all the way from Ghana, beautiful Ghana. We're just gonna chop it up some more on this live stream. And tonight's topic that we're gonna get to is Africans using culture as an economic weapon globally. And I want to start off with this. And I understand why Awini wants to go in on this topic. Because, especially here in America, Black Americans, we are quick to put a price and sell our culture to people who do not have our best interests at heart. So if you look at even example, BET, Black Entertainment Television, is no longer Black.
Yeah.
A lot of the so-called black media, and I say that usually, is no longer black. So we are willing to compromise and sell everything. Everything we have has a price on it. And we will sell it to people who do not have the best interest of us at heart, who can care less about a positive image of us being showed around the planet. So, we will just hold on to our culture, our media especially. We can use that as an economic weapon, and really just a weapon, of course, economic, because of course we will earn money from it. But at the same time, we now have our image, we control our image, and we could project it in the way that we want to, and not have to be at the mercy of others. So, Winnie, go ahead and go in on it.
Yeah. Okay. My greetings to everybody, and I thank everybody for taking the time to come and listen. I've really been struggling, because I realize when I read comments from people, especially in America and other parts of the West. They find it hard to understand when Africans speak English because of the accent, you see. So I'm trying really hard to, be as clear as possible. So I'm trying to,
But brother, we understand you just fine. Perfect.
Okay. So I hope that's so the issue of culture. Uh, it's very, very significant, and I think as you have said, Dinas, that it's not being dealt with. It's not being used as efficiently as it should be used. Now, if we take a glance at what culture actually is, it's the sum total of our intelligence as a people, and it represents our journey from when our ancestors, first started to question their environment and make informed decisions, and come up with all manner of solutions to solve their everyday problems. This was the basis of culture. And out of that thinking came so many things, so many, beautiful things. And unfortunately, we have been brainwashed to look down on our culture and to sell out cheap and so on. So I'd like to get that out, that we need to understand what culture is ever evolving, but most importantly, it represents what we as a people have achieved since we started existing on this earth. If
Right.
we fail, if we fail to continue with and improve on what our ancestors started, then we might as well have landed on Earth just yesterday from Jupiter, or the moon, or wherever, because we become a newborn species of human beings
Absolutely.
who Now this again goes to form the basis for, the question you were asking me, what the brother was saying, what are we doing, and what have we done? Why? Because people have not been able to link what our ancestors did back then to our current situation. And honestly speaking, in a moment I'll go into some of the specifics, but honestly speaking, the mind is an evolving thing. So if my father was able to conceive, certain ideas, and he passed them down to me, it's up to me to continue to improve those ideas and conceive new ones. So it's a continuum. Now, what we are doing is committing cultural suicide on ourselves, and our culture must necessarily be the basis of our economy, because it is the culture that produces that extra spark, that intelligence. Like you've been to Africa, right? You've
Yes.
seen some of the beautiful. I've seen your trips in Kenya, your trips to Kenya, some of the beautiful beads, some of the
Yes.
beautiful,
Yes.
cloth, and so on.
Yes.
The question we are asking now: are Africans producing new things like that? Mostly, they're not.
No. But listen. Let me stop you. We,
Uh-huh.
we do produce it, but we don't value it. No, listen, we don't value it the way we value European fashion. I
I
mean, there should
get
be
you.
no reason why. I mean, and it's getting better.
Yeah,
Well, I
well,
take that back. I
mhm.
take that back. Okay, outside
I,
of kente cloth,
mhm.
our Dutch wax is not produced by Africans. You got a point there.
Exactly. What I'm trying to say is that it appears we have stopped thinking. Yes, a few people are doing one or two things. I must admit, they are doing one or two things. But take for instance, take our musical instruments
Right.
all over Africa. Where I live, I've not seen one new musical instrument that has been invented so far. I've seen minor improvements made to some of the musical instruments, but they're still basically the same as they used to be. So it appears we have stopped evolving in evolving culturally, which is what is worrying me. And if we make a comparison to what our ancestors who didn't have electricity for the most part, who didn't have access to all these things we have, so-called technology and so on, they they did their best and produced some basic tools, even if they were not sophisticated, very basic tools that enhanced life. What we are doing right now is, because the world has become a village and it's global and everything is linked, and we can give our labor and make some money and buy stuff, we are relying on other cultures to produce for us,
Exactly.
mostly, which is wrong. And that's why anybody today, they can turn back and say, Africans are lazy, they're not doing anything for themselves and so on. And they have a point to an extent. I don't agree totally that we're not doing anything. I'll go into specifics. If you look at our culture, basic agricultural tools, this is technology. It was enough basis for us to develop further and see how we could continue improving the output, but we stopped doing that, and we started patronizing other people's cultural goods.
Right.
That's We patronize, and like you were trying to say, we have patronized them more than ours, and ours is dying. And if our culture dies, we will have no image in this world. We will be a cultureless people, and a cultureless people are people who don't think, because your culture is the basis for the food you eat, the clothes you wear, the kinds of technology you use, and all of that make up your culture, the kind of music you produce, and all of that. So we need to really watch that. And I guess this can sort of be a sequel to what we spoke about the last time.
Right.
You know, there are things, basic things that we can be doing at the individual level that will change a lot and bring about new progress. So I'll look at some aspects, culture, that can become, very, very strong economic tools. You know, uh, let me start with the cosmetic industry.
Okay, let me stop you right
Mhm.
there. Let me stop you right there. So I
Mhm.
guess you're gonna mention cocoa butter, shea butter.
Yeah, well, cocoa butter, not really. I mean, uh, I don't really see it as an African invention,
Really? Okay.
but we use it. We use it. I mean, we make the cocoa here, but that cocoa butter is not made by Africans. It's
Okay.
imported. They're importing that stuff. You see? Yeah. So sure, the shea butter, definitely, because we produce that here locally, almost everywhere. When you come to Ghana, it's produced in the northern sector where I come from.
Mhm.
You see, this is a cash crop that we produce here, and so yeah, definitely that's part of it. But I guess the question though is, if we are so bent on, liberating ourselves and improving our lives, then we need to develop a mentality of at least using the stuff that promote our economy. You see, so if you look at the cosmetic industry and you take what, most sisters use a lot of cosmetics. Me, I don't really use much of that. But why is it that we are not, patronizing? I know there's some level of patronage of shea butter. I shouldn't take that away from the black community, because I
Right.
know that there's some level of consciousness with regards to these things. But we want it to be a regular thing,
Right.
and
I think personally, I just think for some reason we don't see the value of what we have.
yeah, and that's why we need to bring about some of this education, because let me tell you this for a fact. You see, a lot of the chemical cosmetics we use on our skin, it eventually ends up in our system, because
Right.
the skin is porous.
Hmm.
So if you are using a cosmetic that is so, you can't afford to put in your mouth, then you're intoxicating yourself in a way. You see,
Hmm.
so it is wise to use natural, edible cosmetics. Take shea butter for instance. I love shea butter. I use it to cook. It's
Okay.
great yeah, when you use it to cook, man, it's some people, have issues with the taste of it, and this, people have different taste preferences. But when I use it, I really like it, and it's healthier. You ask, and I'm challenging people now to go and do research on the health benefits of using shea butter to cook. Uh, 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 I know the benefits of it on the skin as a good protector. Even you see the cocoa butter you're talking about, they have a component of shea butter in there.
Mm.
You see, yeah, you read the ingredients and you find that it's in there. So in terms of cosmetics, I guess the question should be, what have our so we can look at ourselves and say, okay, so what have our ancestors been using that we can make use of today? And the answers will pop up. There's shea butter there, that it's really good. There's coconut oil,
Hmm.
you know, that are really good. And the, so if you look at the jobs that can be created
Right.
around just these two alone. And I know I'm just speaking from a Ghanaian perspective.
Hmm.
If we dig in other African countries, I assure you we are going to find more cosmetics that are good for the skin,
Right.
and and we can, market this, and we can at least learn to use our own, you see, in order to create a strong economic base
Mm.
for some of these crops. Right now, let me tell you about shea butter. We have, again, it's exported. We're exporting a lot of our shea butter. The Europeans buying. Why? Because our people will not buy the shea butter. You see, so we are producing a lot of it. Is going abroad, to feed industries there. A lot of the shea nuts are going abroad. Right now, you can. This is lean season. A shea nut a bag of shea nut goes for about, you know, $15, which is quite significant here. For it's a wild plant. The shea nut tree is a wild plant, so people go and they pick the nuts in the season. So I guess to wrap it up on the cosmetics, most of the things we are using, especially our women are using today for their skin and even the hair, there lots of our products can be derived from this particular shea tree I'm talking about. People are making lotions out of it.
Right.
You see, lotions that are good to wash the hair, natural lotions, and so on that are good. So why don't we, as a people, begin to appreciate our own and use our own? This creates a market. We are the immediate market for this particular group or aspect of our culture, because the kind of cosmetic you use is a cultural question. Because you go to China, they use Chinese cosmetics. You see, of course, now there's everything everywhere, but at least the preference should be that you use your own, unless you don't have it. You see, so I'm going to move on to the food. You see, if you look at every culture
Hey,
has their own.
Awini,
Mhm.
is it true that they banned Chofi in Ghana?
What?
Is it true that they banned Chofi in Ghana? Chofi.
Trophy? Oh, I haven't heard of that.
Okay.
I haven't.
It's the turkey tail. The turkey. The guinea. Is it? You guys call it guinea fowl? Guinea fowl. The tail.
Nah, that should be Turkey, because we produce guinea fowls here locally. So I don't think they are banning that. But
Okay.
I haven't heard of that being banned. I can check, I can confirm, but I can't speak on it. But in line with the cosmetics, though, there's a current ban on bleaching cosmetics.
Thank God.
Yeah, but it's not yet effective, because you have a lot of the creams in the system already. The borders have to be tightened to ensure that people don't smuggle them in, and so on. But it'll help, if we stop destroying ourselves that way, and calling it a personal right and all of that, a human right. But yeah, so I'll move on to the food
Well,
and.
wait, let's go
Mhm,
back to food. So
mhm,
in America, people love Mexican food. People love Chinese
mhm,
food. Caribbean food. So how will we
mhm.
market Ghanaian food to where
Yeah,
people will want it?
look, it's simple. Just like when you have a Chinatown in America, and you go there and you get, Chinese stuff, Chinese everything, Chinese food, and so on, and you have all these Chinese restaurants. People can open, Ghanaian restaurants, and try to, invest in, stores in a cluster, and you say, oh, this is Africa Town, or this is Ghana Town, or
Right.
you know of course, why not? It's a marketing strategy, and if you do that, you you not only have a lot of Africans coming there to eat, because Africans, we love our food. You know, you also have other people from different cultures wanting to try African food.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so it's a huge unexploited opportunity that I don't see why we're not going into it. It doesn't take much to do this. It can be a small, even you have been to Africa.
Yeah.
People have small a stand, you know, and they sell from that, and they close and send the utensils home, you know. And so when you come there at night, there's nothing. So I mean, we can start small doing some of these things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's we ourselves will patronize it because we love our food, and our food is nice. It can compete with any food anywhere. If you come to Ghana, I was talking to one of the sisters about having a food fair, because we have so much variety. I can't imagine. You know, there's so much, you see, and some of them are dying out really, because if you don't eat them at home, you're not going to get them on the street, because sometimes the preparation takes more time and effort, and so you know it's becoming a fast track life. So you only go to special places to get special foods, but
Go
build,
ahead.
building an economy on food alone. I
Right.
mean, it has such a huge impact on our economy as a people. It'll put money in the pockets of individuals who are supplying, cooking this food, the farmers who are farming the crops that will feed the restaurants will also make a living. The people who process, you know, the direct farm produce into storable food will get jobs, and so on. So it's a whole chain of a business, you see, and building an economy on this will be great, because the Chinese love their food,
Right.
the Indians love their food. Why is it that we are content? Look at the distance between America and China. You know, they don't come through the other side, you know, going through the east. Most of them fly through, you know, they can fly through Europe. So that's a longer route. But look at
Right.
how they are able to bring some of the Chinese ingredients and all of these things. Some of them, most of them, I know don't, they're not in America. It's a business. You have a supply chain. You know, you have people who are distributors making money. You know, and so on. So you know, it's. I think it's one of the most lucrative areas that needs to attention needs to be paid to, because people eat every day.
Mm. Hey, Beast Mode had a question in the chat room. Uh,
Hmm.
one thing I love about Africa, every country I went to, was the food was natural. Everything
Hmm.
was fresh. Are you guys having any issues with Monsanto and GMOs at all?
Yeah,
Is Monsanto
they,
in Ghana?
yeah, they've come here trying to. It's new. It's a new wave. They've come here trying to bring in genetically modified organisms,
Mm-hmm.
GMO. It's a big issue here, because we have a group here called Food Sovereignty Ghana,
Mm.
and are campaigning that no, what GMO is coming to do is diabolical. It's not only unhealthy to eat genetically modified food, but it also enslaves and takes away the sovereignty
Right.
of Ghana in terms of its food supply, because you have to go to the company to buy your seeds. You can't replant the seeds that they give you. You have to keep going to them to buy. And
Wow.
this is a catch. This is a very big issue, because if if this succeeds, what's going to happen is our food system, and this is the basis of survival. The food supply is going to be hijacked by Monsanto.
So,
You
so,
see,
so, Awini, why won't the government just ban it?
The government, like I told you, these puppets we have, these
Uh-huh.
sellouts. I
Right.
told you, when they come, Monsanto, they mean business. They have money. It's a multi-billion-dollar group, and they have the resources to push it in through NGOs. There's a lot of NGOs here. They have the resources to buy their way in. So now the last battleground is at the individual farmer level. When farmers say, no, I'm not going to use GMO.
Right.
So what are you going to do? So there's a campaign as we speak. There's a campaign right now to convince people of the benefits of GMO. Now they say, it gives you higher yields. You spend less on fertilizer and pesticides and all of these and so on. But like I said, if you research into food, I've done a bit of research into it. A lot of the staples, I have realized that they're not natural. Corn, the corn we're eating today, it's not the natural corn that was found in nature. So we need to be careful uh, with our food supply system. But as far as GMO, the battle is on. I can guarantee you that. I heard they were banned in some parts of South America, like Bolivia, I think, and now they're knocking on the doors of Europe, and Europe is also resisting. I don't know. Like I said, I keep complaining about African leaders. You see, I don't know what they're gonna do. But the signs are that they're not going to stand up, as they have not stood up for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, it's
now, do Africans know, I guess, the consequences of eating GMO foods? Do they see how sick Americans are as far as cancer, diabetes?
yeah.
So they know the consequences of actually eating
Yeah, well,
GMO foods.
you see, I wouldn't say generally people are conscious. Like I said, a lot of the issues we're discussing here every day, if you won't get it out of an average Ghanaian. Let me put it that way, and not to say people are not conscious, but just the level of consciousness is not. It's not. I mean, it's a general thing. Most people don't research into some of these things. So some Ghanaians know though, and that's why we formed that organization, Food Sovereignty Ghana, to conscientize people and so on. So the consciousness level is rising.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh,
But Mhm.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to see if we had any questions in the chat room, but we're good. Go ahead.
So again, our food, that's why I started by trying to explain what culture actually means. Culture is the clothes we wear, is the food we eat, is everything we use and how we see the world, how we relate to it. That's based on our culture. So our food is an aspect of our culture, and our ancestors have done a great job, you know, you know, producing some really, really great foods. Trust me. Really, look, there's so much variety. I can't begin to, this is one of the things some of us who travel away from Africa, we miss a lot. But if fellow Africans elsewhere, can capitalize on this and bring it to all parts of the world, it's a business, you see. So we need to, reclaim that aspect in terms of food, and it's going to build a huge economic potential that will grow exponentially. You see, and it's all about marketing. If the idea is there, and people come together, and they can sit on around a table and brainstorm how they're going to market the food and talk to people and so on. And this is a big industry. So that's done. I'll move to uh, some of the hair products again we use,
Mm-hmm.
and how we treat our hair. You see, and you come down here and there's a lot of creams, and people, of course, shea butter is multi-purpose. People use a lot of shea in their hair. People use coconut oil and all of that. But let me not necessarily what you put in there, but even the hairstyles. Our sisters, and I don't mean to diss anybody on this, but
Go ahead.
the preference for wigs, all these
And
wigs,
weaves. And weaves too.
all of these things that put money into other people's pocket. You
Hey,
see,
Awini, real quick before, I hate to cut you off. Danielle Simmons says she would love to connect with you when she lands in Ghana.
yeah,
Um,
no problem. She should hit me
expat.
up.
She lives in the Volta region. So Danielle, do this. I'm gonna put my email address in the chat. Shoot me an email, and I will connect you with Awini. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So again, we need to. This hair issue is big. Look, most of us, we feel ashamed to even grow an afro. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, but can you imagine if people call it nappy hair? What the hell? Why would I call my hair nappy hair or bad hair?
Right.
I mean, it's a psychological game people have played on us, and some of us have bought into it. We need to get out of that thinking. And you can, and some of people don't know they insult God and their ancestors for some of these comments. Because if you say your hair is bad, then you're telling God was prejudiced toward you,
Right.
and you're telling your parents they did you great harm by passing
But
on.
it's like Nita said in the chat room, it's self hate. I mean, who
Yeah,
told you that your hair was bad? Who told you that?
exactly. So exactly. And this in this area, I have looked at Africa and I've seen some very, very unique, very beautiful hairstyles that look, people, the salons that our sisters go to, people can get even more creative with our hair, even the way it is, without necessarily straightening it. I'm not
Right.
saying straightening is bad because that's a personal choice. But what I'm saying is if we want to build an economy just on hair alone,
Mm.
we can afford to come, we can look, there are so many styles. We can look at East Africa. There's a whole lot of different braids, different things people do with their hair, and people can get jobs doing this. Why are we not building based on what we have? Why are we hustling and making our money and giving it away to other people just to look good and feel good? You see, because this is an emotional thing. This self-hate thing, it's emotion. Because people think they have to feel, they want to feel better if they look like what they see on TV and what's presented to them as the standard. We need to look in this area alone. I see so many jobs being created just around this alone, and I hope we can take the fight further, because in some corporate institutions they shut you out and say your hair is not formal. This is another assault on African people that I will not condone any day. For somebody to tell me Chinese people can grow their hair, even men, they grow their hair long. European people can grow their hair long, but Africans cannot grow an
Yeah,
afro.
yeah, we
And
can.
and
We're all here long.
no, yeah, I mean, depending on where you're working, there are certain jobs.
Oh, okay, okay. Now I understand.
Yeah, you get formal. I'm talking of some corporate jobs. They won't tell you right straight out, but some of them will be honest and they'll tell you, you need to they'll tell you need to be neat. And I don't know what kind of insult it is to say my hair is not neat. What do people mean by that?
Right.
So other races can grow their hair and work corporate jobs, but we cannot. and this is a discrimination that shouldn't be tolerated
Okay.
on any grounds.
Hey,
You see,
Awini, how's the natural hair movement in Ghana? Or is it like pretty much other places I've been to in Africa where it's just a bunch of bad weeds?
yeah, it's I think let me see. Recently, I've seen a little bit of improvement on the side of the ladies, and but it's still pretty much. I know a lot of ladies. They tell you. I've spoken to ladies about this. They tell me, "Yeah, I have natural hair," but then they wear a wig on it, and I'm like, so why why are you keeping it there? If you're not going to show it, if you're not confident enough to show it, and then they come out with these excuses. Oh, it is difficult to deal with, and all that, and that's where our cultural creativity can come into play. What our ancestors been doing with their hair, and what are some of the techniques we can learn from them? You see, so we need to really take a step back and look carefully. I think that the African community or cultural background has a lot when it comes to hair, keeping hair. I've seen some cultures where the hair grows so long from people tell you, the hair doesn't grow. It depends on how you treat it. I'm in so many groups. I'm in a group on Facebook. Uh, Zimbabwe is big on natural hair,
Mm.
and even South Africa. I was shocked to find this out. South Africa, Zimbabwe. I don't know about Botswana and Namibia, but what I know, Zimbabwe and South Africa for sure. Some of, if not the highest, natural hair and different, create kinds of natural hair. There, you'll find it there. So we need to take a step back and relook at it, because it's a big industry, and it's a basis for an economy that is sustainable. People go to salons to get their hair done, and people who set up the salons can go, either you go to Africa, or you have short courses that teach different styles, and people can throw in their own creativity. There's no limit to what we can do, you see,
Well,
with this.
the Senegalese, they
Hmm.
have the braiding. They do a lot of the Senegalese. They have the salons where they do the braiding, so they're known for that here in America.
Hmm. Yeah, we do braiding here too, but like it's weaves, this weaves thing. Yeah, so I think a lot of things need to go in. And we just need to, grow some self love, and begin to see how we can improve on, the hair, and how we can let it compete, because we shouldn't forget that we are competing, because you have to make it look appealing so that somebody chooses that over another style from another culture. So we have a lot of creative minds that can easily come up with new ideas. I have no doubt about this, and I've seen a little bit of that, even in America, uh, and so on. So it's something, again. All these points I'm mentioning, we can have what you call, associations, or a group of people, like-minded people, or people who have similar skills, coming together to form a guild, and sitting down to brainstorm how they can make some of these things happen, and how they can go and lend money, maybe at a low interest, and invest into some of these things. You
Hey,
see, so.
everybody in the chat room, and everybody who's watching this, I actually was in the movie Good Hair with Chris Rock when they were shooting the scenes at the Bonner Brothers show. I used to do the Bonner Brothers show every year here in Atlanta, from like '06 to '08. So go check out Good Hair with Chris Rock. I was in the movie. All right, so
Oh, okay.
let's talk about So the Tatanka company, the car company, car manufacturer in Ghana, correct?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what can they do where they can expand, like maybe a Honda or a Mercedes, and expand globally?
Kantanka needs an investor. He has the brains and so on, but he needs a business-minded or business-minded partners that'll go and help him to make it, because in economics, there's a supply and demand.
Right.
So the supply, the demand has to be created. And for the demand to be created, the product needs to be able to compete and get a market share, and for this to happen, people really need to put in more because, for instance, I'll give you an example. If you're producing just, let's say, 5 cars in 6 months, your overheads.
Whoa. You said 5 cars in 6 months.
Yeah, I
I mean,
just
it's a
want
start.
to.
It's a start. It's a start. It's a start.
I want to give a scenario. Not necessarily. I'm saying if you're producing less and you're using the same amount of materials, in terms of economies of scale, you are likely to spend more to produce, say, 5 cars than Mercedes would do to produce 5 cars because they have a factory set up where they have perfected a lot of the processes and reduced unnecessary costs. So straight up, Kantanka needs rich investors that will go in and partner with him to make the business big. And by making it big, it means investing for him to expand the output and also to work on the demand side to, gradually introduce the products into other places of even Africa alone. You see, if this is a thing that I don't know why we keep doing this, but we import so many cars
Right.
into Africa.
Not to cut you off, so I won't lose my thought, forget my thought. So why won't the Ghanaian government subsidize Tatanka?
Well, that's why it's a dicey question. It's a dicey question. Let me answer you real quick. A few years ago, I can't be specific. One of our presidents, I'm not sure if it was the current one or the past 3 or so, they tried to buy Kantanka cars for all the parliamentarians, people in parliament, and
Okay.
they kicked against it. They kicked against it. Can you believe this?
Well, because they
They
wanted
kicked
Mercedes.
against
No, they wanted Mercedes, right?
it. So people have preferences and so on, but on the government side, uh, again, the support has just not been forthcoming. I guess government mostly does not, go into partnerships like that. Government usually wants to receive money to execute its projects, and so because of the debt burden, I've not seen government investing in such ventures for a while now. We have a policy. The new government has a policy of one district, one factory, but the idea behind it is they want to partner private investors to come into the country and establish a factory in a district in Ghana. And so government will basically facilitate the acquisition of land and whatnot. So it'll end up being what you call a PPP. That's a public-private partnership. And so that has been the problem. Government does not.
Awini.
Sadly, it would have been good for government to partner with Kantanka and government. The least they can do, they'll buy some of his cars. I shouldn't say that. The best they can do is to buy some of his.
No, he's going in and out. Sorry, he'll be back.
machinery, the trailers of tractors. So those parts that go to the farm and are used to carry the farm produce home. I think part of that was given to him, but uh, right now the kind of system, the neoliberal system, it does not permit government to interfere so much in business. So what he needs right now is private investors who will come and have an agreement with him and have a roadmap as to how they can make it happen.
Okay. Let's talk
Yeah.
about how Ghana recently found oil in the north, correct?
No, it's in the south,
In the south, okay.
at the west coast of Ghana.
West Coast, okay.
Close.
So
Mhm.
how can Ghana, since we're talking about, I know we're talking about culture, I know we're kind of getting off of that,
Yeah, but mhm.
but how can they capitalize on that oil and not fail and do like Nigeria, where outside entities, foreign entities, are monopolizing, controlling the oil interests in Nigeria? How can Ghana make sure they control the oil interests in Ghana?
Well, I again, it is going to have to be a government decision, and I don't see it happening. Uh, we found recently won a case. We found more oil fields close to the border with Cote d'Ivoire and
Hmm.
so on. We already have foreign companies here like Cosmos, which is a big one,
Hmm.
that have an agreement with government and they have a percentage share. Government has a percentage share in that, but Ghana has less than 20%. I mean, this is unacceptable. If you ask me,
Correct.
this is unacceptable because if you calculate the social cost of even drilling the oil, because it's in the ocean, and so it's in the sea. So the people there who used to fish, because a lot of people along the coast are fishermen, they can't go fishing in some areas anymore. Their lives are going to be affected. Some of them will get jobs and so on, but it just doesn't make sense for a country to get less than 20% to exploit its own resources, because the side effects we are left to deal with.
Hmm.
You know, there's no uh, exploitation of a natural resource that does not affect nature and affect people around that area. There's always an effect. Even parts of the social effects. There's a high prostitution is on the increase in that area because a lot of money, a lot of foreigners are going there. There's a lot of people coming to lodge and all of that. So the country needs to get a fair deal, and to get a fair deal, government must sit up and work. But to give you another scenario, what Norway was, they compelled the companies drilling their oil to float their shares on the stock exchange. The government will get a chance to buy into the company.
Mm.
You see, so that's a that's another way, and I think that's a more given the circumstances, that's a more likely route that we can take, is to try to review our contract with these foreign companies and make sure that the government can buy directly into the company by buying shares, and in so doing, there's going to be a better deal coming from that. But other than that, no, I don't really, it's very sad, but no amount of resources, natural resources, are necessarily going to turn the country around or the continent around. We're so rich in resources, but if we pull the supply, the exploitation and sale of those resources, can you imagine? We don't control the market. the market forces. So imagine we are the suppliers, or it comes from us, but we don't have a say in the pricing. And so you can imagine being in a country where oil is being drilled, and you can't afford to buy gas.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's the reality of it, because most of us, gas prices are skyrocketing day. Uh, and why? Because the government is not cushioning the effect of the market prices. So if the market, the world prices of oil change, then they are felt here immediately. Government usually used to subsidize. Now they're not doing that anymore, because there's a strain on the purse again. We have a lot of resources now. We those Some of us don't support the neoliberal approach to development, because it just essentially ties the hands of government and prevents the government from doing business. And know how we arrived at some of these ridiculous deals, because when you look at it, there's no way any, any country will give you 20 80% and take 20%.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. So that's the issue. So the change of government, they'll, try to own some of the oil companies, and do the drilling by themselves, because that way at least we can be sure that we have some control. But for now, we only control the regulatory environment, which is pretty much not effective. You see, but again, investments. People in the diaspora. I heard Floyd Mayweather wanted to come to Ghana, and later he canceled the trip. I don't know what was up with that, but a lot of Black or African diaspora investors can really come in and partner with government to invest. This is an explored area. Uh, that partnership can exist, you know. So but it has to be on a high level. For instance, uh, we are trying to develop our railways,
Okay.
bring them from the south all the way up north. This is a capital intensive venture. But imagine it's going to, if you look at some of the benefits, it's going to be used to transport people, but mostly goods, because we have landlocked countries like Mali, like Burkina Faso,
Mauritania,
like
Burkina
Niger.
Faso.
So, yeah. And so they come and pick the goods here in Ghana at the port, and drive all the way up. So some of these initiatives can create big business for forwarding of goods, you know, freight forwarding, and so on. So it's a big area. There's a lot of investment opportunity is there, but it needs that high capital, because if you want to, for instance, compete in the transport sector, you need to invest big, and you need to, have a friend in the regulatory environment to, ensure that you're able to get your money back plus profit. You see.
Hey,
So that's
no, finish. Go ahead and finish. I got a question for you.
yeah. So basically, uh, African Americans in particular who have the resources can partner with government to invest in certain areas. I'll give you another area. In terms of, we have I think the largest man-made lake in the world, which is the Volta Lake, which is what feeds Akosombo Dam. right? So there's another mode of transportation, which is a ferry that moves on the river from the north down south. It's a short route to go to Accra, and some people take that trip, you know, for fun and for tourism basis. That's another area that can be invested in. Uh, So your question.
Yeah, Mark Ryan in the chat room said, "What would you do if you were in power? Do you think you would be able? Do you think you would be in a position to say no to the IMF and foreign entities?"
Of course. Well, other people have done it. Brazil has weaned itself off of the IMF. China is not borrowing. India is not borrowing. We can look at the economic models of these countries and essentially evolve our own based on their experience. And it's going to take some sacrifice, but it can be done. We need to, you see, most because of the political environment in Ghana, politicians cannot tell the people the truth. Politicians come and they make all manner of promises when they know deep down in their hearts they can't fulfill them. And even if they fulfill them, they are plunging the country deeper into debt. Austerity measures. We need to speak the truth about the economy, and we need to endure for a while before we emerge as an economic power. But people don't want to sacrifice. People want things to be done right now, and it doesn't happen that way in any country. Go and look at China, how they sacrifice to build, and India, and all of these countries that are emerging. Japan, they got hit by two bombs, and so on.
Mm.
It's painstaking. People have to look. People have to come down to riding bicycles in Germany after the Second World War. Country. I know they got help from America in through the Marshall Plan and so on, but there's nothing wrong with borrowing, but there are several avenues to borrow.
Right.
But you don't borrow in a way that will put you in a vicious cycle of begging. It has to stop. We started this in I think around 1983. We're still with the IMF now,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just going back and forth. We need to set an economic agenda and stick to it. So definitely, look at Rwanda. You know, look at Tanzania.
Mm.
These countries are trying to do something different now.
Right.
You know, they're bold enough to say, we're gonna, go out and we're gonna have to suffer for it, but it's good. It's a good sacrifice. So definitely, to the question, definitely, if I were in leadership, definitely I would make the necessary sacrifice because the only thing to do. All what we're doing is wasting our time. We'll have to come back to the basics.
No, you're right.
Yeah. So, is there any other question
Let's see here, Awini. So,
before?
no, we're talking about using our economy as a weapon.
The culture.
Look, let's see. Ghana is a beautiful country. I haven't been yet. I'll be there in November. And November's right around the corner, Awini. I'll be there soon. I'll be there in
Definitely.
November. Now,
Yeah.
how do we make Ghana a tourist attraction? Like, people who want to go to Brazil and England and,
Mhm.
a lot of people want to go to China. How do we make Ghana a tourist attraction with all the culture and the beautiful, the weather and, what
Exactly.
food?
hmm Let me start by saying Ghana is not short of tourism attractions. They're there. The problem with it, though, is the development of the other infrastructure that goes along with it. So, if you, for instance, you come up north, we have a place, a game reserve. This is the largest game reserve in Ghana, where you can see elephants. You can see wildlife. You can go to the park. We have a waterfall in the park and all of that. Now, the road, until recently, and this park was put there, reserved by Dr. Nkrumah, President Nkrumah, as a game reserve far back then. Now, the road until less than 3 years ago, would I say three? Less than 2 years ago, the road was in such a deplorable state.
Oh.
You see, so it makes reaching the game reserve very stressful.
Right.
When people come to tour, unless they're coming to experience hardship as a tourism attraction, they want to have a smooth holiday period and go back to their work. So what we can do is to, again, there are things we can do on our level and things that the government needs to do. For instance, you can't come and build a road and all of that. But the little things that can be done is, for instance, I'll give you an example. You can organize a tour trip, a trip to Ghana on your level, and you can arrange for all the things that go along with it. The accommodation is very good. The transportation, a good van, a truck, bus to transport tourists to the tour sites and back home, and you can plan it out really well. So on that level, you can give people a good experience, and then they go home and speak about it, and hopefully many more people want to come. But as far as the culture, Ghana is generally a very friendly country. Most people are very welcoming. That's one of our virtues. And Ghana is the center of the world. If you are looking for the 0.00, it's a little off of Ghana in the ocean, but when you move up, the nearest landmass to the center of the world is Ghana. So Nkrumah used to have a place around. It's at Tema. That's where our harbor is. So there's a point that is marked there as the center, the real center of the world, where latitude and longitude is 0, 0. So that's another unique thing about Ghana. So the energy, and again, for people who are into what do you call it, the spirituality, and into metaphysics, because hate it or admit it or not, even the Christians have to agree there's gravity, right? So that's a force. So the parts of the world experience different effects because it's night somewhere and day somewhere. So definitely the geography that you find yourself in the world has an effect on you. Just like about 70% of the earth is water and 70% of our body is water. There's a relationship there. So and the moon churns the water when it's full moon. There's that attraction, and it happens in the human body. So the location alone has a significance in metaphysics. That's a fact that nobody can deny on that level. And so, not to talk too much, just if you come as somebody who is interested in tourism, then you would want to work out the routes. And I'm happy to say that I would say about 60 to 70% of the routes to a lot of the tourist centers are okay. They're okay, you know. But we need people from America to organize trips and collaborate with partners in Ghana who will, organize. Like you can go to. Some people used to do that. If you come here and you go to Legon, which is University of Ghana. We have exchange students that come from America all the time.
Hmm. Let's see here. So we
And
have another
people,
question.
professors,
So Gaddafi was trying to unite, I guess, and make, what was Gaddafi trying to do? Back the dollar would go, and it was going to be called the Afro, where Africa would have its own currency. Do you think that's still a reality that still could happen?
yeah, well, it's a tough question because I don't see who is going to champion it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gaddafi was he did not only have the will, he had the resources, and he had a good heart for Africa. Uh, I don't know, but it won't surprise me. So Africa is full of surprises. Somebody can emerge and take that on. But the idea was to, of course, have that to have the African Monetary Fund.
Right.
But there are already other groups that are rivaling the IMF, like BRICS. That includes, I think, China, South Africa, uh, I think Brazil also. There's about 5 or 6 of them. But yeah, definitely there are alternatives to what Gaddafi was trying to do. I think, however, presidents like what you call him, Paul Kagame of Rwanda,
Right.
he's a good guy.
Okay.
He 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 has his people.
Mm-hmm.
I think President John Magufuli of Tanzania has a special kind of love for his people in Africa in general. But the question is, do they have the resources? Do they have the personality and respect to convince African leaders to sign on to it?
Mm.
That's the question. Because if Africa comes together in terms of leadership and commits the resources, we can get it done. But they won't do it. And they won't do it, at least now. But all hope is not lost. You see. Uh, so I just want to go into this issue of clothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's also an industry that has not been explored, and I would like to encourage. I've seen some African Americans like you. You wear the African prints and
Mm.
the clothing, and you market them too. So I would encourage people to get them from you, and pretty much other Africans over there who are marketing African clothing. Hello, 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 hello. Hello? 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 Oh, hello? 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 Hello?